In this video, we are going to take a look at editing some of the alignments that we have placed in here. One with the tangents, we'll take a look at the curves, and we'll take a look at the ones we drew by layout. I'm going to start with the drawing by tangents. Now, to get into the dialog box, we select our alignment, we right-click, and we can go into Edit Alignment Geometry. We also have some other options: alignment properties, style, labels, add widenings, edit super elevation when we get to that. But for now, we're going to go Edit Alignment Geometry, which will bring up the dialog box that we saw in the previous video for these alignment layout tools we use down here. So if we didn't draw this long enough, we can go and add to it at the end. We can add tangents and then put curves between them and go from there. However, we want to edit what is currently here. So say we didn't add in a PI that we need. We can add another PI into our alignment and it will deflect it. We can add our curve. Likewise, we can delete PIs if we have one too many. We can put it back to what it normally was. We can break apart a PI and we can stretch them apart. They'll become two independent yet connected objects, and then we can put a curve between them. The same commands: fixed lines, fixed curves, free curves, the spirals. These are spirals where you already have two tangents. Different spiral commands. We can reverse directions, convert AutoCAD lines and arcs. Reverse your sub-entity direction. We can delete sub-entities, and this command I use a lot to delete maybe the curves or tangents or whatnot and just redraw them based on new parameters. We have edit best fit data. We have pick a sub-entity. We have the sub-entity editor. And we also have this alignment grid view dialog box, which gives us a lot of information about the alignment itself. So I'm going to just minimize that so we can see. As we click on the various bits and pieces, you'll notice in the drawing window below that the objects that we're selecting on highlight. Now, we can only change things that are dark black. So we can change the radius of these two curves. We can change the chord lengths and the degree of curvature by arc. But we cannot change anything else. We can't change any of the stations. If we unlock these, we get more options. However, at this point, you could really end up messing your alignment. So I don't suggest editing these unless you really absolutely need to. So I put these in as simple curves. Now, say I don't like the radius, I could come in here and go, it's not actually letting me, sub-entity to remove. I click the button. So I can come in here and type 500. I can type 1,000. And it could not solve that. That's too big. So let's go 650. And as you see down here, the curve does adjust. I'm going to use this button here to delete these entities to put this alignment back to its pre-curve tangencies. So say I put a curve in and I didn't like it, I could delete it that way and then use the commands. Let's see if there's any commands under here. Oh, not that one. More fixed curves. Can we go between two objects? Between two, yeah. So a free curve fillet between two entities and a radius. So I could select these two entities and type my new radius. When Civil 3D asks if it's greater than 180 or less than 180, it's how far of a curve are you turning. So this one is less than 180 degrees, and it asks for the curve degree of or radius. So let's see, we want a 250 meter curve in there. It puts that curve back in. Likewise, this next dialog box, this drop down here, we can do floating curves with spirals, floating reverse curves with spirals, free spiral curve spiral. So I'm going to select the spiral curve spiral. I'm going to connect this entity to this. And if you had noticed, I'm going from the lower value to the higher value. So it's as if I'm traveling up the highway. It will not work the opposite direction. This curve is less than 180 degrees. Now my degree of curvature, so my radius in the middle is going to be, I'm just making these numbers up. You would pull these off a table, obviously. So I'm going to go 200. My spiral in length, let's say it's 30 and 30, just to make sure that it does fit. So this curve here looks really similar to this one. However, there's a number of things happening that are very different. I'm going to go into my alignment style and I'm going to change the color and line type of these so we can see what is happening. I'm doing a continuous line. My curve, I'm going to make color 1, red. My spiral, I'm going to make color 2. And hit OK. So if we look at the first curve, we have a simple cyan color, tangent, curve, tangent. If we look at the second curve, we have tangent, a little bit of a spiral, and we'll talk more about that later, to a curve, to a little bit of a spiral and back out. Now, this grid view is all fine and dandy, and as you see, it's updated as we've done our work. We have spirals, we have our radius A values, a few more things we can change, the lengths, etc. There is a command that can give us a bit more information, and it's right here, the sub-entity editor, which will bring up alignment layout parameters, but this dialog box is empty because we first have to pick our sub-entity. So I'm going to select this button, and we'll select my curve. So this curve is brought up options for me. So my parameter constraint lock, they're locked, they're true. I can change the length, I can change the A value. My curve, let's say I wanted to go 400 meters here and change my A values to, we'll do 60 and see if that works. And it's changed the length of them, so they have gotten a little bit longer. Now, because I hit escape, it's canceled the command. We could choose different options. Here's our alignment line, tangent line. Here's another tangent line. It gives us pass-through points. Look at our curve again. Look at our simple curve. So quite a few ways of editing your alignments. Reversing directions, breaking it apart, adding in new bits and pieces if we didn't add it long enough, or we actually have to change the way it works. We can also edit an alignment through the grips, but be very careful because you can see something happening, but you don't necessarily know what Civil 3D is doing. So if I start adjusting this, and actually let's do it on the one with the spiral curve because it's more easily visible to see. You notice that we have additional grips over here. We have some circle and some triangle grips that we don't get on this second curve. That's because it's built from a spiral curve spiral. However, I'm going to adjust this. I'm just going to drag this up, and then I'm going to drag this one down and start messing with things. Let's make this curve a little bit bigger so I can grab the circle grip and make it a little bit bigger. Now, if you go too far, the visualization glyph will disappear and you won't be able to move it because then it cannot solve it. So I'm going to put this here. This one will change where that curve ends or starts. And it basically does what the other one does. It's just you can change if I want it to start here. I can move tangents so I can adjust this up and down, left and right. I got this grip here, which again, we can make a loop-de-loop like in a Hot Wheels track. So these circle and triangles roughly do the same. This one moves the PI and whatnot. So let's take a look at this grid view now. So I had set these up for 460. It looks like they kept their information. However, when you are moving things and adjusting things, it's always a good idea to come back into this dialog box and make sure these numbers have not changed. I've had plenty of instances where a drafter has come in and moved these alignments and it's reset these values to something to make the alignment fit. So let's see if I can make that happen. I wonder if Autodesk has fixed this now and it doesn't actually happen. But just keep in mind, come in here and always check your work. So if we look at this alignment down here now, edit alignment geometry, we'll look at the editing tools. A lot of these are constrained by previous, so we shouldn't have too many options in order to move stuff. I can change where this second point is on this circle and it will move it, but it's going to keep this other line tangent. I can change where this curve is located. This is the through point if you remember the point that I had selected. And Civil 3D will do its best to keep your entire alignment tangent. So we can make some pretty wonky looking designs, and let's turn snap off so we stop snapping to absolutely everything. So this is all an attempt to keep your alignments tangent, and when you're having alignments cross over each other like this, building a corridor becomes very difficult, so be careful with that. So we can adjust things as needed. We have a lot of options for editing. Again, the delete sub-entity will get rid of bits and pieces, and then we can put them back in and build them as we needed. So that was some alignment editing with grips and with the tools to try and design our road better and more complete.